Riding a motorcycle is awesome, but what's it like having a motorcycle as your only form of transportation, you might ask, as I sit on my motorcycle in a soaking wet parking lot from a fresh rain? Well, we're about to talk about exactly that, with my experience having my bike as the only way I could get around.
Perfect.
Alright guys, so I set out to make a video today about installing new clutch and brake levers on this bike, but it turns out that they did not fit. I guess they sent me the wrong ones, but I was really in the mood to make a YouTube video, so I came to this parking lot to work on wheelies and make another wheelie video on the Rebel, and it just started downpouring out of nowhere. The rain has since passed, so I can turn my GoPro back on, fortunately, but it got me thinking about when my bike was the only transportation that I had. If you're familiar with the channel, you may know that about a month or two ago, a tree fell on my car and smashed it up, and it was in the shop for about a month. So for that month, all that I could have as my transportation was this bike, and that's the first time in my life that I've ever only had a motorcycle to ride. I don't think it would ever be my first choice if it weren't for that situation happening, just because I feel like, you know, there's always the added convenience of having an actual car. But given that circumstance, I was forced to only ride my motorcycle, so I figured that with what's going on today, it made me want to weigh in on what my experience was like. I guess we'll start off with some of the positives to only riding the bike. The first one, which is probably the most obvious, is it just makes you feel like a total freaking badass. And obviously that goes without saying, but I mean, for real, people are just driving around in their cars and you're riding your bike everywhere that you go, you just feel like a badass. I don't know, I'm not even kidding. If you're forced to ride your bike more, you're cruising around and you feel like you're living like the outlaw lifestyle, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, this bike is all I have to ride. You guys are just posers in your cars or whatever. Not really, but you get what I'm saying. Instead of going to the local coffee shop in my car in the morning to get coffee, I'm rolling up on the bike first thing in the morning, walking in with my helmet like, what's up? Yeah, I'll take an iced coffee. But anyways, all jokes aside, even though that wasn't really a joke, one of the positives is that it forced me to have more seat time. And not only more seat time, but like in situations where I might not normally have seat time, if that makes sense. So it forced me to have practice, because obviously I'm riding my bike a lot more than normal, but also you have situations that you would encounter like this, where I'd get off work and it was raining or something like that, and you're kind of forced to have some practice in the rain, or, you know, going on maybe some roads that you normally wouldn't, because it's your only option. Although piggybacking off of that, one of the downsides to only having the bike is that sometimes the acclimate weather is unavoidable. And like right now, okay, it's not raining and the roads are just wet. It's good practice for riding around on wet pavement, but when you get off work and it is pouring down raining and your only options are to ride your bike home in a torrential downpour or leave your bike at work to get soaked while you wait for an Uber, kind of makes you rethink things a little bit. And I will say, there are times that it was raining hard enough in that month that I didn't have a car that I did just choose to let my bike stay at work and get rained on while I took an Uber home, but that was only in like torrential downpour, like, you know, thunderstorm situations. There were other times where it was raining and it was sketchy, but not sketchy enough that I left my bike there, I guess. And let me tell you what, I have always done everything I could to avoid riding in the rain up until that point, but when it's unavoidable and you just have to do it, man, I'm riding home in a t-shirt because I'm an idiot and didn't bring a jacket because my work is right down the road from me. And I tell you what, raindrops just feel like individual bee stings all over your body when you're riding home at 40 miles per hour or whatever. Not something that I would recommend. If anything, I definitely should have had my jacket, for one thing because it's raining and it's a little sketchy, but for the other thing, just for protection from the rain. That was definitely one of the big downsides, is a few times having no choice but to get caught in torrential downpour on the bike. But like I said, on the plus side, it helps me get used to having to do that in case it ever comes up in the future. Speaking of crappy situations, let's just block half the road in a blind turn and I'll have to pass them and hope that I don't get hit. Go slow. Okay. Alright, we made it out safe, boys. Now, another thing that I noticed from my month of only having the bike, which might seem like an obvious one, just like these other ones kind of have been, but the fact that, like, it was just harder to get anything that I needed. And what I mean by that is, like, when I went grocery shopping, all I could do was fill up my backpack. I didn't have a trunk that I could fill up with groceries or whatever. So instead of going to the grocery store and getting enough groceries for a week or two or whatever, I'd pretty much just get whatever I needed that would fit in my backpack, go home with that, and then repeat the next time I needed groceries. As I go down this wet hill with oncoming traffic, no painted lines. Gotta love it. You want to just pull out in front of me, or... And it also wasn't great, the fact that there's really not any way to bring home, 20 pounds of cat litter for my cat when all I have is a motorcycle. Squirrel, what are you doing? So pretty much when I knew that I was going to have to drop my car off and I was only going to have my motorcycle, I did at least think ahead enough to stock up on a bunch of cat litter because I have no way of taking it back with me. And this also might not apply to those of you that have like saddlebags and things like that on your bike, but I definitely do not. So, that's really just a minor inconvenience at best. You just gotta kind of plan out your grocery shopping a little bit better and all that kind of good stuff. And then the other downside that might just apply to me, and I also kind of talked about it a little bit, but it almost made me, I don't want to say less cautious on my bike, but like normally I try to wear gear every time that I ride, but when all I have is my bike and lots of the time I'm just having to run right down to the grocery store or to the coffee shop or to my work, which is only like a couple miles away, and it's, super hot out because it was the middle of the summer, I wouldn't want to wear a big jacket. Even though I have a mesh jacket that's nice and cool, it's big and bulky, and I don't want to have to find somewhere to put it while I'm at work. And I kind of found myself getting a little bit more lax and saying, oh, you know what, my work is only a few minutes down the road, and my uniform is just a t-shirt and shorts, so I can just ride to work in a t-shirt and shorts. And honestly, I did that every day that I had work, and I was fine, but all it takes is that one freak accident where something happens and I'm like, man, I really wish that I was wearing full gear, I say as I'm riding around on wet roads in just a t-shirt, but I guess that's like kind of part of my point. Now, especially now that it's cooling down some, that probably wouldn't be as big of an issue because it would make more sense to wear a jacket everywhere that I go, but at that time I just found myself not caring as much, I guess, just because it was a little inconvenient. Of course, nothing's as inconvenient as road rash, but tell that to my past self. And I'm sure some people would also have to deal with the fact that you'd have to be filling up your tank more often or whatever, but like I said, in that time I never really went anywhere far at all. I live in, I guess, the suburbs, but I have a city 5-10 minutes away from me, so I don't really ever have to go far for anything. Within 10 minutes of my house I have a mall, a Target, dozens of restaurants, dozens of grocery stores, so that wasn't really a concern for me. But I guess if you live somewhere a little bit more remote, it would probably be a little bit annoying to have to fill up your tank more often. Although on the plus side, I get a lot better gas mileage on this than I do in my car. Unless, of course, I do one of these numbers. Even though kind of getting on the throttle like that does decrease your gas mileage, it's just so fun. And I guess that's kind of the overall thing about riding your motorcycle everywhere, is that it's just so much more fun to do pretty much everything, except for, grocery shop and all that. But it makes everything so much more fun. If you have to hop in your car to go to the post office or hop in your car to go to the coffee shop, it's just like another day, it's not that exciting. But doing anything on your motorcycle is fun. And you can make anything on your motorcycle fun. Even if I was just going to the post office, I'd have a blast because I get to ride my motorcycle to go drop off a package. Or if I just go to get coffee, I'd have a blast because I get to get on my motorcycle. Sometimes it would like give me a reason to take back roads, to kind of take, a scenic route somewhere. That's one of the things that I love the most about it, is that it just put fun into my everyday life. You know what I mean? It's hard to frown on a motorcycle unless you're being pelted by giant raindrops that feel like bees, but we already talked about about that. So to wrap things up, I guess let's just say, if I had to do it, would I choose a motorcycle as my only form of transportation? And to be honest, I probably would not choose that unless there were certain circumstances, like, you know, if I lived a place where the weather was always nice as opposed to having all 4 seasons, because, you know, me personally, I'm too much of a baby to ride my motorcycle during the winter or whatever, so I wouldn't like that. I'd always still like to have the convenience of a car and be able to load people into it if we're going on a road trip, or be able to pick up bigger things from the store or whatever. But if you ask the question, could I get away with only having a motorcycle? Absolutely. And I never thought I would say that before, but now that I've done it for a month, you know, yeah, it's absolutely doable. Especially in a day and age where we have, like, you know, Uber and Lyft and all that kind of stuff. You can still take those when you need to go pick up something bigger or whatever the case is. But if it absolutely came down to it and my only option was having a motorcycle, I could 100% do it. So that's kind of the big eye-opening thing that I got out of that whole experience, which was pretty cool. You know, knock on wood, hopefully my car stays fine for a long time and I don't have to worry about that, and I can have the convenience of having both. But if it comes down to it, I mean, it's absolutely doable. You figure there's people, and, you know, like I made the video about, can the Rebel handle a passenger, because people were curious about how it did with the passenger, and I didn't mean can it handle it, I just mean, like, how did it do? And there were people commenting, oh, I live in India and I have a 50cc scooter that I take me and my wife and my 3 kids on, and, you know, they're halfway joking, but, like, really, people pile onto, like, little scooters and stuff and use those year-round in other countries especially. So, I mean, it's doable. People do it all the time. It's just we're used to having the luxury of multiple vehicles. So anyway, there is my experience with having a motorcycle as my only form of transportation. Hopefully that was entertaining to you and gave you a little bit of insight. Of course, my opinion is just that, my opinion. It's not facts. You might have a different experience. You may love it. You may hate it. Whatever. So ride at your own risk. But as always, thanks for watching. You guys are the best. If you're new here and you liked what you saw, definitely make sure to check out more content and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out in the future. And if you liked the video, make sure to smash the like button. Regardless, though, thanks for the support, guys. Love you. Peace.